Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is me, Sir Jun, your philosophy and social science mentor, and welcome also to our series of discussion in understanding the self course. So for today's episode, we are going to tackle about the how to become a better learner. So we are going to talk about good and study habits, good thinking skills for us to have a lot of ideas and methodologies on how to develop or improve our thinking capabilities as human beings and of course as learners in the world. So are you excited to learn something today? Then keep on watching this video until the end. Learning is not just a matter of studying in order to pass your quizzes, your exams, and whatsoever required from your professors. Instead, learning is a matter of increasing our knowledge. Learning is a matter of accumulating skills. And of course, it is a matter of possessing good and positive attitude towards learning. Some of us want to become better students. I know that some of us would like to become excellent students, excellent learners. However, I have to be honest to you that becoming a better student in terms of academic starts when we start also to become a better learner. In the movie Three Idiots, I remember saying that is coming from Ranchodas Chanchad. He said, do not chase success. Become a good student first, and success will change you. In other words, excellence starts when we strive hard to become a better student first. It's not just simply a given to us, but becoming an excellent or better student is actually gain. It therefore implies that a student should bear in mind that studying is not just for the sake of grades. Studying is not just for the sake of passing exams, but it is a means of becoming a better learner. That is why in this video, we are going to discuss metacognition, and we'll try to understand this metacognition and some of the related study habits or study tips that each student should learn so that they will become better, and if not the better, the best and excellent ones in the future. Metacognition is defined as thinking about thinking. It is our awareness of our thinking limitations, capacities, and the current knowledge about something. Metacognition happens when we are able to think what we are thinking, when we are able to process our information, and how we are going to use methodologies in learning process. So, metacognition will help us as learners to improve our learning process. By reflecting our own methods of learning, it would help us learn the effectiveness of our own approach to learning. And ito natin malalaman na, hindi pala effective yung study habits ko. And I have to adapt. I have to change my study methods, my study habits. I have to adapt and improve these study habits for me to become a better learner. So metacognition will teach learners the emotions and motivations also in becoming a better learner. Like for instance, There are students who learn better when they are challenged by their teachers. Or there are students who learn best when they love the subject being discussed or being studied. So these are some of the important things that we have to learn about metacognition. And so, in developing our thinking process or in developing our thinking capacities, we have to practice metacognition. And so, I'm going to give you now some of the necessary skills for us to practice this metacognition. So, these are the necessary skills. Number one, know your limitations. Diba? In metacognition, we have to evaluate ourselves. We have to assess our own mental limitations, our academic competence, and as well as our academic weaknesses. Saan ba tayo nagkulang? Saan ba tayo weak or mahina? After knowing our limitations, then we look at what we do not have or what we lack as basic knowledge. Because I always believe that there's no such thing as bobo in this world. It is just that sometimes our knowledge on something is lacking. Sometimes our knowledge about this particular topic or nahihirapan tayo in this particular topic, it means because this is our limitation. And we have to accept that that is our limitation na hindi natin alam. Diba? So, we have to know and accept our limitations, and afterwards, we'll look for means and ways on how to cope up this particular limitation. So, alam mo na mahina ka sa ganyan na subject. So, anong gagawin mo? Will you just accept? No, we have to do something. You have to do something to change that weakness into strength. Pangalawa, modify your approach. Realizing your weakness, realizing your limitations, mentally, academically, then it does mean that you have to modify your approach to learning. In other words, kahit na anong ginagawa mo, aral ka naman, ginagawa mo naman yung best mo, pero bumabagsak ka pa rin. Parang wala pa rin nag-sink in sa utak mo. In other words, maybe your strategy is inappropriate or not proper to you or not something that gives you really knowledge. So that is why after realizing this limitation, then you have to modify your approach. You change your thinking capacity. You change your study habits. Definitely. So, baguhin mo. Kasi pag wala kang babaguhin, mananatili ka rin ganyan. Diba? Remember this. When you fail, do not change your goal of graduating. Instead, change your strategy of learning. When you do not understand what you are studying, when you do not understand what you are reading, do not change your goal of learning. Instead, change your strategy of studying. Pangatlo is skimming. This particular skill is definitely about taking down notes, keywords, phrases, and sentences that provides us the idea of what we are studying. Before reading the entire details or topic, we need to understand first the whole or the entire context of what we are going to read or study. That is why we have to take down important keywords and phrases. This is a reality. You cannot memorize what is written, everything in this particular book. No? Can you memorize? Can you understand everything that is written in here? You cannot. You are a human being and you have your mental limitation. Kahit nga mga genius, hindi makamemorize dito lahat. So, you have to take down some important phrases and keywords or sentences that gives you the general idea of what you are going to study. Yun, that is skimming. Pang-apat is rehearsing. Rehearsing here means that we are trying to make our own personal interpretation of the subject matter or topic. In other words, this is the time that we insert our personal opinion, our personal reaction or reflection about the topic being studied. So that is why this is a matter of owning the topic, relating the topic to ourselves. And for me, it's very effective. Kasi you do not just simply read the book or the text. You are owning it. You're making your own personal interpretation to it. You're relating yourself to this particular topic that you're studying. And that is a good strategy of learning. Panglima is self-test. So we are familiar with self-test, di ba? Before we go to real exam, then we go to self-test. Tinetest muna natin yung ating sarili. And there are many ways of how we test ourselves. We can do the self-test through companions, di ba? Mag-self-test ka muna, gagawa ka ng iyong mga sariling questions, tapos answeran mo yun. Minsan ginagawa ko ito sa aking mga students, especially sa aking mga social science students, in which I always ask them to create more than 100 or 200 questions. Yung questions yung ipapagawa ko sa kanila, tapos lagyan nila ng sagot. Sila yung gumawa ng tanong, sila din yung magbigay ng sagot. That is one way of self-tests. And that is very effective in practicing metacognition. In addition, let me give you another 5 important tips on how to develop ourselves towards becoming a better learner. Some of these tips are coming from my personal experiences when I was still a student. And of course, you know my story that I started as a nobody, but I graduated with flying colors. So some of these tips are really effective. And some of these tips are coming from my personal knowledge also, which I have gained from readings and from the genius people that I lived with since before. So here are some of the 5 tips. Let's start. Number 1, create an outline. What does it mean? It means that when you read or study something, you create an outline of what you are studying. So gagawa ka ng siguro isang graphic presentation, outline presentation. Kasi the outline will guide us about the presentation of ideas of what we are studying. And sometimes the outline will help us understand what is really the detailed discussions. Sometimes the outline will help us understand what is the main point of view of the authors. So that's why that's significant. Create an outline para mas maintindihan natin yung ating pinag-aralan. Pangalawa, break down your tasks. Ibig sabihin, we break down our tasks into small and at the same time achievable. We have to remember that we are human beings. Kaya yung sinabi ko kanina, we have limitations, we have mental limitations. So, we cannot do plenty of tasks at the same time. That is why we have to break down our tasks into smaller and manageable ways. Diba? So, that is why huwag mong i-complicate yung sarili mo in doing a lot of tasks. Kasi, mahirap yun. Remember, according to the metacognition, our ideas, our mental capacity is limited and we have to accept this limitation. Okay? Now, pangatlo, study one at a time. Study one at a time. It's important that we have to realize that we cannot study a lot of things at the same time. For instance, you cannot study all of your lessons all together at one time. Mahirap yan. Kasi it might complicate your tasks. Pangalawa, it also gives you confusions. Mas lalo kang malilito niyan. So, we have to study one at a time. So, for instance, when we study math in this particular hour, then you study math. Then in the next hour, we study English. The next hour, we study history. Ayan, so that is why importante, gagawa tayo ng ating sariling timetable. Or in this particular day, ito yung gagawin mo. Pag-aralan mo ang subject na ito, then tomorrow is another subject. Ayan, we have to study one at a time. So, make a clear and practical study period every day that includes how many hours we are going to study in this particular subject. Okay? So number 4, revise, summarize, and take down notes. Ito, although hindi ako mahilig mag-take down notes usually. Pero importante din yung gagawa tayo ng ating sariling summary of what we are studying. No, i-revise natin yun. Ibig sabihin, we state these things in our own words. We summarize what we are reading into our own words. Kasi yung summary na yon, atin yon. It is ours. Diba? So, it's important. We take down notes, especially sa mga mag-aaral. Tips ko talaga yan sa mga mag-aaral na during discussions, during lectures of your teachers, don't forget to take down notes. Kasi makakatulong sa iyo yan during exams. And of course, it helps you also learn more. As you study, you are also taking down what you are studying. Diba? Then, the last but not the least is engage yourself with what you learn. Aside from owning what you learn, you have to contextualize your learning. What do we mean by contextualize? Ibig sabihin nito is, we relate the topics to ourselves. We relate these topics to our personal life, to the life of people around us. Do something about what you learn and try to apply them to your own life. According to John Dewey, my favorite pragmatist philosopher, he says that learning is gained by doing. That is why we learn also best when we put what we know into practice. We apply it to ourselves. We contextualize it. We relate it to our life. And by doing that, we are trying to teach ourselves on how to become the better learner. So those are the skills that you need, and those are the tips that might help you how to become a better learner. If you think that you have your own idea also, if you think that you have your own personal tip on how to develop, on how to become an excellent or better learner, you can also comment it in the comment section. Everything will be appreciated. This is Sir Jun, and I hope that you have learned something from our discussion today. See you sa next videos natin. God bless and good luck sa iyong pag-aaral.